Thanks, guys, for joining us on this Learn Jira session today. And I promise it's going to be an interesting time today. I want to say thank you from wherever you're joining from across the world. Just to level set, today is going to be more of a Jira basics class, more into just getting started on the intermediate. And we're going to take it one step at a time. So gradually, we're going to learn more as we get along into this journey about learning Jira. This is this is the first one that I'm going to be putting on our channels. So please follow our page for more amazing content. So follow this page, like and share this video, and also recommend this page to your friends who want to get to learn tools like Jira and other project management and IT topics. I would also like you as well to follow us on our social media platforms, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Twitter. Our handle is the same across all these platforms at AAA Consults. Our goal is to provide contents that would help you learn and develop in your career. In the chat, can you please just put where you're joining from? Okay, so today we know where we're all from. Good, good. Okay, I can see California, Texas, Lagos, Toronto, Winnipeg, Brandon, London, I guess in the UK, not the one in Canada. Okay, Sambisa, wow, that's great. Maryland, Alabama, wow, we got people from everywhere. Okay, so that's great. Thanks to all of you once again. And before we get started, I typically like to help you with a good foundation so your experience on Jira can be seamless. So I like us to have an understanding of exactly what we're doing. So that way, when you get into Jira, it becomes more personal for you. You get to really understand how the platform works. First thing first that I like to talk about usually is a project, right? What's a project? So a project is a set of tasks which must be completed within a fixed period in order to arrive at a deliverable. So more or less, you're working on something, right? So you're focused on a specific goal. You want to deliver something of value, and you have to do some things to get to that value within a specific period of time. So they are temporary in effort. That's why you have the time being specific. They create value, and what you get out is a unique product, a service, or a process. And you can compare these to different things. As we are, most of us would have done projects one way or the other. It just depends on how you apply it to it. So for instance, you have different types of projects that we do. We've done projects in school, we do projects in our homes, right? Something that you do, right, within a fixed period of time to arrive at a clear deliverable. So there's a set of tasks that you do, applying more or less that project management tool to it, and the techniques is what makes this more of the project management when you get into begin to talk about the management part of it. But a project, very basic, is something that is done to arrive at a deliverable that gives value within a specific time. It's temporary, and you go through a set of tasks to get there. Now that we have an understanding of projects, as we get into Jira, because we're getting started mostly with the agile part of Jira, I'd like us to also understand what agile is. Though within Jira, you have different modules that you can use to do different things. So you've got HR, you've got procurement, you've got software development, and so on within Jira. But mostly Jira, most of the time Jira is used for software development projects, or you're working with a Scrum team, for instance, and that's the tool they're using. So I like to start from there. I'm going to talk about the other modules as well, but we'll get started with the software development, the agile piece of Jira. So what's agile? So you may have heard about agile a lot. It's quite the buzzword these days, and agile is more or less a way of working that uses an iterative approach to work that helps team deliver faster, and with fewer headaches. So makes their job easier. You deliver in iterations instead of doing one, just waiting till the end before you hand over the deliverable to your customer. Let's use an example. So you're building a house, right? A house ideally is built using the traditional predictive approach of project management, where you have a client, it gives you a contract, you go build a house, and you deliver the house at the end of the work, right? That's when you give the house to your customer. That's the traditional project management approach. When you look at the agile way of working, or the agile methodologies as they are called, what the goal is to deliver to you faster so you can see what's being built and you can make tweaks as you get along. In the example of the house, for instance, there are two ways we can look at it: from a traditional perspective and from an agile perspective. From a traditional perspective, you build a house, you have a contract, you build the house, and then at the end, you're handed the keys of the house. You get into the house is already fully set. You can't make changes anymore. If you want to build that same house in an agile way, all you got to do is you build a house, and as you build each layer of the house, you have the customer come and you show the customer what you're doing. For instance, we build the foundations, the customer would come and take a look at it and say, yes, I like this, I don't like this, right? And then you get into and then the customer makes recommendation as you get into building the next phase, what's going to deliver value for the customer, and then you build based on that value understanding or that value conversation with your customer. Okay, now that we have an understanding of that, let's talk a little bit more about agile. So agile is a mindset, set of principles based on the Agile Manifesto, which was a manifesto that was launched in 2001. And it came about when a set of software engineers came together, and at that time, we had more of the traditional waterfall project management approach, and they were getting tired of it. It wasn't really working in software development. So they came together and developed what's today called the Agile Manifesto. That Agile Manifesto has 4 values, the 4 values of Agile and the 12 principles of Agile. However, something I just want to caveat today is that Agile is not only used in software development. So you can use Agile in practically every project. Any type of project is not just used in software development. All that is important is that you're able to tailor your approach to your project. So you could use Agile, you could use Waterfall, you could use different types of hybrid methodology. Agile is based or built on the values, those 4 values that I mentioned earlier, which is individuals and interactions over processes and tools, working software over comprehensive documentation, customer collaboration over contract negotiation, and responding to change following a plan. And then you have the 12 principles of Agile, which is focused on satisfying the customer, delivering software, working software frequently, building projects around motivated individuals. This is what you have when we talk about Agile. So the different delivery approaches within Agile or delivery methodologies within Agile, such as Kanban, Scrum, SAFe, and the rest of them, is all built around the 4 values and 12 principles. So that's why they say that it's a way of working and it's more of a mindset. Okay, now that we have an understanding of what Agile is at a basic level, let's take a look at how that is applied on Jira. On Jira, we typically would have an improvement project, right? Or you have a project that you're starting from the scratch. And to this, I'm speaking around a software development project. And I mentioned this earlier as well. You can use Jira for practically anything you're doing. But I know that most of the people in the class today were focused on how I can use it in software development, in the IT world. So that's why my focus today is on that. In our subsequent classes, we're going to talk about how you can use Jira for other things. Okay, so in Agile, we've got different methodologies as you may have them, or delivery approaches as you may call them, whatever name you want to call them. Today, we're going to talk about two of them. One is called Scrum, the other is called Kanban. So Scrum is more of an iteration-based approach, and Kanban is more of a flow-based approach. In Scrum, you have what's called sprints. So you break down your work into time boxes, periods where you start, you have a clear start, you have a clear end, and you have what's called a sprint goal, right? So what are we expected to deliver from this sprint? Kanban, on the other hand, does not have a sprint. So the primary purpose of Kanban is really to optimize efficiency by visualizing the workflow, limiting the work in progress, and continuously improving the process. So you would use Scrum more when you're building a new product, more or less, or you're making a major improvement, and you would use Kanban more when you're doing more of an improvement, right? So Kanban would use more of cycle time in their measurement of how work is progressing. Scrum measures their production or its own production using what's called velocity. I'm just giving you the basics of it. There's a lot more about this. If you want to learn more, just follow this channel. And then, you could also attend one of our classes as well, where you would get to learn more of this. So now we have an understanding of it. Let's take a little bit of a dive into what Scrum is and what Kanban is. Okay, so for Scrum, but before we get into Scrum and Kanban, let's take a look at our software. So I'm speaking about Jira today, but Jira is not just the only software that is out there that you use for project management. So there are other tools that you use for project management, and you can see some of them on the screen. They could be as old as the Microsoft project that we know. Smartsheet is one of them as well. You've got Rike, you've got Asana, you've got Monday.com, ClickUp, Confluence, Jira, Trello, Primavera. There are so many of them that we can't write all of them today. You've got Gantt PRO, you've got quite a lot. However, a few things just to point out is that a couple of these tools also provide similar functionalities as Jira. The great thing about Jira is that they are continuously improving. Others are also continuously improving. And with Jira, you can actually migrate work from other software into Jira, other project management software into Jira. One key thing to note is that Confluence, Jira, Trello, all these three tools are made or are owned by one company called Atlassian. So that's something for you to know. Today, we're just focused on Jira, and we're going to talk a little bit more about it. So prior, I told you about Scrum and Kanban. Now let's take a dive into them. So Scrum, in terms of Scrum, what is the fundamental thing or the key thing for you to know in Scrum as we get started in Jira? There are quite a number of things that you want to know, but just at the basic level, like I said, we're just starting. So right now, all we're just doing is we want to get to understand what Jira is and how I can use Jira. How does this apply to me? So I'm talking to you as if you have little or no understanding of how Scrum works or how Kanban works. So first thing first that we need to understand is that within Scrum, as I mentioned, Scrum is a time-boxed process. So it uses time-boxed process. So you have a sprint, it's time-boxed. You have sprint planning, it's time-boxed. You have your daily stand-up, it's time-boxed. You have your review, customer review. You have your retrospective. All events in Scrum are time-boxed. So your sprint, ideally, is time-boxed to 1 to 4 weeks. So you use whichever works best for you, whichever works best for what you're doing, you tailor to your approach. 1 week would be used more when you have a very unstable product, for instance. So maybe you're releasing a product and you have competitors. Those competitors are releasing quickly too. You want to make sure that your speed to market is rapid. You want to make sure that you're delivering value quicker. You use a 1 week sprint. Most standard time box you would find is a 2-week sprint. It could be a 2-week sprint, it could be a 3-week sprint. However, the longer your sprints are, the chances, the higher the chances that your customer is disconnected from the value that you're trying to create, right? Because it takes them longer to actually see what you get out of your sprint. So in your sprint, what's the purpose of, having a sprint? The purpose of having a sprint is having what's called a usable and potentially releasable product increment. So the sprint does not always have to have a working increment. However, the goal is usually to have a potentially releasable product increment. So that's something that we want to all have the understanding of. And then let's talk about Kanban. So with Kanban, Kanban works with a workflow, as I mentioned. So with Kanban, you're having a workflow. It's not time boxed. It's usually a set of cards where you're moving from a starting point to your end goal, which typically is complete or done. So that's what you would have. Kanban supports work on an ongoing basis. So it's not like Scrum where you have a time box and you're working you're focused on delivering work in 1 week, right? So that's the difference. That's one major difference between Kanban and Scrum. And something to also note is that Kanban is a process that was made popular. I'm not very sure if Toyota is one who actually invented Kanban, but I know it's some Toyota engineers that actually put the framework together and made Kanban what it is today, right? A clear approach where you can actually understand how your work flows from start to finish. So in Kanban, you're focused on the work in progress. And if you go to a Toyota shop today, you'll still find they use a Kanban flow, right? You come in, you want to service your vehicle, for instance, you see them moving cards from point to point, right? So these are the cars that are in queue to be serviced. And then this car is currently being reviewed by a technician, for instance. That's what their Kanban board may look like. So it's been reviewed by a technician. And then once the technician reviews and sees everything, then it can then move to service, right? Because that technician looks at it and says, these are the things you need to do, and then moves it into the swim lane for service. And then from the swim lane of service, somebody services it. It moves to the swim lane of car wash. And then from the car wash, it gets to, maybe the swim lane of complete. You have to pay, and then you get out of their facility. So more or less, that's how Kanban works. In a traditional approach, if you move it to software development, you could also have it in a different way where you're having your swim lanes aligned to how you're delivering work. So Kanban can be very simple. If you don't want to make it complicated, you can have your swim lanes, just sticky notes attached to different swim lanes that focuses on the work that needs to be done within that specific swim lane. So that's something I just want to mention around Kanban. So that's good. We have a good understanding of what a project is. We understand what Agile is. We understand these two specific delivery approaches, which is Kanban and Scrum. Now it's time to talk about it gets a little bit deeper into it and have a better understanding of it. But before we get into it, I want to see what tools we've used before, right? So can you guys just share some of the tools that you used before, some of these tools that I put up earlier? Do you want to share? Okay, that's good. So you use Smartsheet. Okay, you use Jira, but not like this. Okay, that's good. Okay, ClickUp. Okay, Microsoft Project. That's good. Excel. Okay, yeah, that's true. Okay, good. Okay, so now that we have that clear understanding of what Kanban and Scrum is, let's take a look at something that is quite important for you to learn as you get into using Jira. Okay, so in getting to use Jira, most especially when we're talking about software development where you're using Scrum to deliver, there's something you have to understand. So work in Agile is more or less decomposed based on this approach, right? So you have themes, epics, features, user stories, and tasks. So that's what's used to describe the different levels of work. So what's a theme? So a theme is a high level goal that provides context for the epics, features, user stories, and tasks that you want to work on. So the theme is the big picture of what you're working on, right? And it would have as its own subcomponents all these things that you have listed right under it, right? So that's what a theme is. An epic is broken down from a theme. So let's say the theme is the big work that you want to do, and then an epic is also a large body of work, right? That can still be that can be further broken down into smaller chunks of work, right? So epics are usually too big to be completed in one single iteration. So an epic may span across multiple sprints depending on what you're building, right? So that's what an epic is. And then a feature would then speak to a distinct piece of functionality, right, that delivers value to the user. So a specific feature, it points to something specific. But features are usually smaller than an epic, and you can complete your feature typically in one single iteration, right? For our user story, then the feature is then broken down into user stories. A user story, right, is that non-technical story that you're writing that is seen from the perspective of an end user. It follows a very simple template, which is, as a user, I want this, which is the feature of what you want, so that I can really get this, which is the value of what you want. So the user story is actually what you take into your sprints, which we would see in a moment. So that's what you take into your sprints, and then you have your tasks. So your user stories are then broken down into tasks, which is the specific piece of work that needs to be done to complete that user story. So your tasks are usually small and detailed, representing the actual work that the team members are going to perform. So that's what your task is. Okay. Now that we have an understanding of how this is decomposed, let's take a look at the two key ones that we usually talk about in Jira. So in Jira, we talk more around the epics and the user story. As I've said this, so epics are large bodies of work that can be broken down into smaller stories. And a story, a user story, is a requirement that the business wants that you can deliver within a single sprint. Okay, so how you measure work that's been accomplished in an epic, you use your burn down chart, for instance. So for your user story, as I've said earlier, you typically would write your story, right, in such a way that it will provide value. As a user of this, I want this, right, which is the functionality you want, so that I can get this, which is the value of what you're looking to get. So user stories are the business functionalities that you can commit to finishing in 1 to 3 days of work. It's a requirement that the business wants. It's something that you can deliver within a single sprint. So typically that's what a user story is. And the user story is more or less the agreement between the customer and the development team. Let's get to see an example, and from there, we would get to talk about Jira. We'll get into the practicals of Jira. So let's use an example. Today, I'm using an example, very simple, that we can all understand. For instance, you go to the Amazon shopping website today, and the development team in Amazon, they're trying to develop an epic. So within their epic, they could have something like once you remember that there's a theme that they're working towards, which is a big picture, and then that theme is broken down into an epic. So the epic is, I want to be able to easily browse and purchase products. That's what the epic is. However, if you give a developer that work, that the developer won't really understand what you want, right? Because easily browse and purchase product is a loaded word. That is something that is very big, right? Easily browse and purchase products. What do you mean? In what currency do you want to buy? That's just an example, right? So in what currency, what kind of product are we talking about? So you then break that epic into user stories. That user stories, what exactly is the customer getting from it? In a very simple term, not technical, that developers can actually build. So that's what you're doing. So the user story that comes from this epic, I'm just picking three, for example, is as a user, I want to be able to search for products by category so that I can quickly find items in that specific category that I'm interested in. So let's take buying things, let's take buying clothing as an example. So you want to be able to search for products by category. So let's say you're searching for t-shirts, right? And you want to search it by a specific category that you're interested in. So you want to search for t-shirts for boys, for girls, age 3 to 6, 7 to 9, 11 to 15, right? So that's what the user wants. So they want to be able to search for that product by category so that they can quickly find items in that specific category that they're interested in. And then another story could be, as a user, I want to be able to see the detailed product description and images so that I can make informed decision about which products to purchase, right? If you take a step back into history and see how organizations like Amazon started, they never had images, maybe detailed product description, detailed product images, maybe they just have one picture. Now you go on Amazon, you want to buy one product, you can see maybe like 15 pictures, they even have a video of that product, how it's been installed, how it's been used, and all that, right? So that's something that would come from a user story. And then finally, you as a user, remember, part of the goal is to purchase the product. As a user, you want to be able to add items to your shopping cart and proceed to checkout easily so that I can complete my purchase quickly and efficiently. So that gives us the basic understanding of what you want to see today for you to be able to begin your journey in understanding how to use Jira. So in Jira, you may find them not talking about user stories because you would see typically it's stories, right, in Jira. And then you would also have things in Jira like bugs, like tasks, like subtasks. So all that is listed there. However, the key thing we want to understand is epic and user stories. And then you can then connect everything else to that. Okay, so now that we have a basic understanding of it, we're going to get into the live Jira session and we're going to do a walkthrough of Jira. We're going to log in, you will on your own end too, and I'm going to show you how to get started using Jira. However, before we get into that, I'm just going to talk to you about our next bootcamp, which is where you can come in and connect to your dream. So it's a practical project management bootcamp where our goal is to help you drive for the success that you want in landing your dream job. So the bootcamp here will talk about different aspects of project management, agile project management, using waterfall, using different hybrid methodologies. You want to understand what IT project management is, you can come in. You want to understand traditional project management that is not IT, you come in as well. I am the one teaching the class and I'll be explaining all this to you. And you have the opportunity of having me teaching you. I'm going to be mentoring you. And our classes are not just for people who want to write the PMP. The PMP is an added advantage. So you want to write your PMP, for instance, you're coming into our class. That is also included in just that class. And as well, you have that hands-on experience using real projects and multiple tools. So you want to use Jira, for example, you want to get hands-on on Jira, how to use it on a project, you're there. Our classes, we have people who are already project managers who come into our classes so they can learn how to do their jobs better and advance in their career. You're just getting started. Part of the class, we're doing your resume review. We do interview preps as well, all included in this package, and job readiness. Just to mention that the interview prep would be after the July 27, May 25 to July 27. We're focused on getting you up to speed on project management, getting you there, getting you ready to write your PMP, getting you better at your job, getting you to go there and put out your resumes and get all the jobs that are out there for project managers. So that's what we have, and I'll be happy to see you guys in the class to join the people who have already registered for this class starting on May 25. And right now we have a discount that runs till the 30th of April 2024, and you can feel free to join. The classes are on Saturday mornings Eastern time and on Wednesday evening Eastern time. So 8 p.m. Eastern on Wednesdays and 9 a.m. Eastern on Saturdays. Head to our site at www.aaaconsults.com and you go to our classes, and there you can register. So once you get there and you hit the learn more or the register button, you can get there. You can pay in installments, you can pay in full, whatever works best for you. You can pay with your credit card, you can do by direct bank transfers, and that would take us, this is what would take us into a practical session. Okay, good. I hope we're all getting our keyboards ready to log into Jira. Okay, I'll get to see you on the other side. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel as we get to expand our learning today on Jira.